Hi, everybody. Welcome. This is Live Feature Rant, a landmark and EverQuest Next discussion show. I am Legendary Neurotoxin, your host, coming at you every week, along with Adam on my screen right here.
Hello.
He's somebody you've probably been seeing here for the past couple of weeks. You're going to be seeing him for a little bit here still. And over on screen left here is Kodi, or Nanovoxel, as you might know him in some other places.
Hello, how you doing?
Pretty good, pretty good. So, we're going to get the show started. We got a lot of awesome stuff to talk about. As you can see it there at the bottom, we have the voxelmancy document to kind of talk about a little bit. The shared view with tools that's now on the feature that's just been added. The new My Store system. The new item, the Gem Finder's Brooch, which Omid thought that was going to piss people off, and I think that's funny considering what they aren't working with. People see this, it's like, nah, that's no big
Yeah,
deal.
whatever. Yeah, who cares? Whatever.
Yep.
It's a cool item. I'm definitely going to enjoy having it, but
I heard I already won one in someone's stream, and I'm glad I did, because yes, that will be useful. That's a useful item for someone whose only gameplay time is exploring caves. So
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
excited.
So then we also have a little bit to talk about in the workshop. The mounts. So mounts aren't tied to specific races. Mounts will be able to be used by everybody. Dark elves apparently are going to be rocking the spider mount as their main one, though, which is what was voted for. So that'll be
Yes.
interesting.
I'm excited about that.
Yeah, I didn't think. I don't really think large cats make sense as a mount for any race. Like, if we're gonna do
Yeah.
that, are we also gonna have giant frogs?
Ironically, every character I have in EverQuest 2 has a giant cat mount.
How about
Not that
giant?
I have multiple mounts on all of my characters, but they all have a giant cat mount in one form or another.
How about giant rats? I'm just listing off all the
Well, what about dogs? Giant dogs. We haven't seen that, right?
yeah.
There-
I
There we
like
go.
dogs.
Well,
I'm a
they
dog
look more
person.
like panthers than they do a kitty cat. You know.
Yeah, no, but what I'm saying is like all the various animal races. It seems kind of weird to have a less intelligent rideable mount version of them. Is just that's kind of thinking about here with it,
Yeah.
but. And then the other thing going on here, speaking of which, is the dwarf versus Karen vote. So we'll definitely be talking about all of this stuff here. There's a
Yep.
props wish list and all sorts of cool stuff.
Yeah,
Snake mounts,
I
yeah.
just voted dwarves right now, and dwarves are winning 55% to 45%. We'll
I
check.
could-
Wow, that's close. Surprised.
That's close for like 10 people voting, 20 people.
There was a lot of Karen love in the chat when Jeff mentioned it. I saw a lot of people get excited. So
Rudinell, yes. Humans riding gorillas, yes, yes. I love that sense of humor. I would ride a gorilla. Yes, I would. I've
That would be
actually
pretty
asked
hard.
for that
How,
as a
how would you
mount.
ride it?
It would be it's giant ass
On the
gorilla. You
shoulders.
just grab onto its fur and hold on for dear life.
Okay, so it'd be
Nope.
huge, like King Kong.
Now the
Yeah,
vote
just
is
smash
50-50.
through things for you
I
like
like that.
that, or like a rhino or something would be another one.
Ooh. I was thinking like a subterranean pet that could burrow through the ground like Tremors, you know?
Oh,
You just like hang
yeah.
on its back and it like just goes through the voxel ground.
Wasn't that basically what the spice worm from Dune was all about?
Yeah, yep.
So that would work.
Well, I know it's funny because everyone's talking about the animal mounts. I think the funnest mounts in EverQuest 2 are not animals. They're things like flying carpets and
Yeah, well, there we go.
like there's some cool stuff they do in
Yeah,
the game.
magic
So,
pets.
Yeah.
Magical flying.
yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I could definitely see being a gnome or being a Karen using a giant gnomish like helicopter thing.
Yeah, that would be fun.
And then
Be
when I'm
awesome.
ready, just jump out and cat missile on somebody.
Yeah, I'm always going to lean towards let people have as many options as possible, even if you think it looks silly.
Fly a rocket. There you go.
Fly a rocket would be cool.
Yeah, You wouldn't
One
have
hot
as much
use.
steering, but yeah, you go real damn
Yeah,
fast.
Iced Latte saying she loved the flying carpet. I literally just got my flying carpet. I'm in the middle of the sinking sand stuff right now, and I just got it, and it's awesome.
It's really funny because Clegg and or Greg were singing lines from that one Magic Carpet song or whatever from Aladdin on the H1Z1 stream, and that was just hilarious. If anybody's interested in H1Z1, that was a absolutely great stream. Should
Which
watch it.
when was that?
That was yesterday. They did a development stream working on adding a feature, so it's pretty cool.
Awesome.
Definitely, I'm not going to talk any more about it, so check it out. And now that we got a little kind of segue from what we were talking about there, we should probably introduce everybody here. So, Adam, you're of course on here every week. So I'm gonna have Kodi. Why don't you kind of talk about your background with MMOs and with building and stuff too? Because of course, with a name like Nanovoxel, you're not, you're not here for combat. Clearly,
Right.
you've
Well,
got more
I
going.
might be.
Well, you are here
I'm
for combat too, but you've got more going on.
Yeah. Yeah. So basically, I'm a graphic designer by trade. So I do print materials, some web stuff, that kind of thing. And I've always loved video games. Video games is my passion. Like, that's what I want to do for a living. I want to make video games. So that's what I'm trying. That's with this game. I feel like it's an excellent opportunity to get in on the ground floor where no one knows how to use these tools. So everyone's on an even playing field. So this is my big chance to segue into the game design aspect of design where I'm doing, commercial design, print design. It's kind of boring. So, but as far as my MMO backgrounds, I started with EverQuest 1. That was my first MMO. And it was like a little tiny box basically your UI was the whole screen, and then you had a little view port that you could
Yeah.
look through to see. And like they didn't change that for a while, or I didn't find out how to change it for a while. But I did that forever, ran around, had no idea what I was doing, loved it. I think I went to right to Star Wars Galaxies after that. And then
Drink. Everyone drink.
Yeah.
I skipped the EverQuest 2. I went to WoW, did that for a while. As soon as the first expansion came out, I said no more. This isn't for me.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if that's in the right order, but I think that's basically how it went down. And then I've basically been playing tons of games, Dota 2, all that kind of stuff. And you can follow me on Twitter at Nanovoxel. So that's me.
Yep. Yep.
Very nice.
And yeah, I've been. I saw you do a lot of broadcasting and such too. So.
Yeah, I do some. Oh yeah, I'm sorry. I do some videos and all that stuff.
Yeah,
For
I was going to say
Landmark.
you recently started doing a YouTube channel as well with some really well done guides and tutorials for Landmark.
Thanks a lot, man. Yeah, I do Cody's tips, so I try to keep it to 2 minutes, just basic tips, not advanced stuff, just stuff you can do from scratch. And I've been doing it basically as a consistency project. So every week, I try to do every Sunday, I put out a video. So that's youtube.com/nanovoxel. You can check out my blog. It's nanovoxel.com. And then I'm just started Twitch streaming, so I'm doing like some Dark Elf builds and stuff. But it's not like entertainment show. It's more of just building and talking to people.
Cool deal.
Awesome.
All right. So, you folks already know who I am, and you probably already know who Adam is. But if you haven't tuned in for a few weeks, why don't you refresh the folks one time?
Oh, well, I joined you a couple weeks ago as sort of a regular on this show. I also do a YouTube channel. It's geek pop culture stuff. It's been a run of Star Wars stuff because the folks who donate to my Patreon page, I occasionally will put up polls and let them vote on what my next content's going to be, and they've been wanting Star Wars from me. So, but I do have some video game stuff coming in the pipe, and that'll be showing up there soon. Same as my handle here, AT0MXII, and you can check that out. And some other surprises coming there in the near future. We'll see how things go. This week has been, I got waylaid with some job interviews that went nowhere, so the things that I had planned on being done this week are not quite finished yet. But
I gotcha.
yeah, so that's about it. And otherwise, I hang out a lot in the Twitch. I'm not doing a lot of Twitch streaming myself. Occasionally, I do, but I'm much more of a regular in the chat room. So a lot of the folks who are watching and watch this after the fact know me just from running into me in other people's streams. So
Yeah. So you've actually been able to do a bit of streaming. I remember your bandwidth was a little shaky for that sort of
You
thing.
would be surprised what you can do with settings properly tweaked, with the bandwidth I do have. But yeah, once in a blue moon, if you check my Twitch channel, I've highlighted a couple of the things that I did, but I haven't done it in a while. So don't follow me on Twitch expecting me to suddenly go live in the future. If you want to keep up with what I'm doing, it's youtube.com/at0mxii. That's where you're going to find not only what I'm doing now, but you also, if you roll down to the bottom of that channel page, you'll see archives of some of my old shows that I did previously. So, little bit of a hodgepodge of things over there. So,
Yeah. Oh, oops. Somebody give me the link for the voting, because I kind of want to keep up on this here.
oh, hang on, I'll drop that in the show notes for you while you
Thank
press.
you. Actually, you can put it in chat, because I'm sure folks
Yep.
want to follow along with it there.
And just real quick, talking about doing job interviews and that kind of thing, SOE just put up like a bunch of new jobs on their career page, which is soe.com/careers. And there's
Any
like
of
a whole
those
slew of them.
community PR related?
There's a lot of them. There's a, let me
Really?
see. Some of them are like temporaries. One of them says, I think it's a work from home position that is a multimedia artist for web design.
Oh,
So
well,
that could be a really
Thank
good
you for the heads
position.
up. I will go take a look at that after the show. Seriously, SOE, hire me. I can pack up and be on the other side of the country in less than a week. I promise you.
So to be clear, everyone here wants to
Everybody
work at
here on this show
SOE.
right now wants a job with this, so hook us up.
Well, they said they're hiring, so there you go.
Yeah.
Exactly.
All right.
Excellent. Cool.
Yeah, yeah. All right. Yeah. No, you're right. Karen's a pulled ahead. It's that cat business, I tell you. Well, I mean, one way or another. By cat business, I don't mean what goes in the litter box. So, yes. Terrible,
people like the
terrible
cat
joke.
business.
All right.
Oh man,
What?
cats are pulling forward. Brass is gonna be mad.
Oh
Really?
yeah, she is. No, we're gonna have to have some sort of a campaign for dwarf awareness or something.
Yeah.
I mean, cats love cheese. Dwarves make cheese. So if you love Karens, you'll vote for dwarves, because otherwise your Karens won't have any cheese to enjoy.
Mm.
I feel like it's rigged because how could dwarfs lose two in a row? It doesn't seem possible.
Yeah,
right?
seriously.
It's insane. I just voted. I don't feel like it skewed these results. I'm concerned. I'm concerned about this. I'm not gonna lie.
All right, so on Landmark Live, voxelmancy, that was talked about a little bit, and there's this new big document that Dave Georgian posted. It's amazing. I read it earlier. I understood every word of it, enjoyed it. I love it.
Yep.
And by the
So
end of
let's
it,
clarify this. Let's just make this clear to
Yeah.
folks that this is for the hardcore Uber builders. Dave made this very clear. This was an internal document that they used originally to explain voxels internally. It's helpful if you're really Uber into the voxel thing. If you're not a builder, it's all going to be Latin to you. But it did look very in-depth for folks that really like to do the building thing.
yeah. So basically, the voxel isn't actually the shape. The voxel is actually a point. There's basically all of what is space in Landmark is a grid of X, Y, and Z voxel positions, and each one, there's just, it's basically think of it as like a bunch of dots, or basically a giant mesh of vertices that's all interconnected, is really, I would say, the best way to kind of see it. And even almost in like a liquid or kind of putty like way, because the air itself can even count as a voxel and hold shape. Now, voxels themselves aren't actually the things we see. What we're actually seeing is now let me make sure I get this right. The shape is basically the collection of vectors. So a voxel will always have vectors all around it. There's no way a voxel can't have vectors around it because air itself is also voxels. So what we actually see as a shape is the collection of vectors that says this one by one by one space is a block of this type of material, or however big or however diverse the space is. So it's a it, and I could really probably talk about this for 2 hours. Maybe it even need an
I'll
explanation.
the audience, yes, he could. Matter of fact, I think both of these guys could spend
Yeah,
hours
I was
discussing, dissecting this document for sure.
exactly. And actually, I was going to throw it over to you, Cody. Is there anything in particular? I'm trying to think of what are the main points. Like, just for me, the biggest thing was just the fact that voxels are basically a point in space that has vectors attached to it. And so I was actually thinking what I would really love to have is a way to just look at the vectors and the vertices as if I was in a 3D modeling program, and just filter out the ones I don't need to see, which is mostly air, or air that doesn't have any contact with things that have a material to them, and just be able to work from there so you don't have to spend 5 hours to make the one block you need to finish the
Yeah.
pattern.
Sure, why not? Why not be able to grab those individual vectors that you're talking about and nudge them over with your, move key on your keyboard and just literally make the voxels, exactly how you want them to look.
The shapes, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, because like that grid system that we're working with, those squares are not voxels. Those are shapes. Those are square shapes created by the voxels, and we can manipulate those on a very small scale if we want to. And they can let us. They just need to build the tool for it.
Yeah, and that's this is me saying that they should really go back on the statement of we don't want this to be like the Photoshop of building games. They should do that. There's only so much we can do, and there's a lot we can do without that sort of stuff. But really having the fine tuning details and the fine tools like that, it take a little bit of learning to save a lot of time versus right now we're hammering things in place with brute force as best as we possibly can.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
we need that fine level of detail, just to save us all that frustration for getting those damn little, weird things. The what are they called? Just the weird little pieces.
Yeah, well,
Get
the
rid of 'em.
detail work, the things that you guys have to go through a lot of hoop jumping in order to get things etched into things. And
yeah,
yeah, it would be nice to see them make that a little easier. That's for sure.
but at least this document, they clearly understand what's going on. Now they've shown it to us, so we clearly understand what's going on, or at least it might take a little interpretation, but we pretty much get it. It's a really, really good kind of detailed explanation of what's going on. And now with roaming vectors being a thing, it's really helpful so we actually understand why we can make a 4 by 4 by 4 represented with a 1 by 1 by 1, how that's possible, and some of these like weird inverted ones and hollow ones, and how that's even able to happen. And it's just because that's how the system works.
Yeah, it's fun. Like I'm saying, Arundel says basic mode equal Microsoft Paint and advanced equal Photoshop. Yeah, I can't see any reason why they should have those, an advanced interface for folks like you guys that really know what you're doing. Like my friend Tom Gerke is jumped in, and he's taken a love to this game in a big way, and he's becoming quite the builder. He's already like making my head spin trying to explain things to me. I'm like, oh my god! And he's literally only been playing for like 6 weeks, so I'm very proud of him. I'm glad he found something that he's artistic to begin with. He does a lot of art, digital art and things, but it blows me away how quickly he's picked it up. But yeah, I think you guys need those tools, because as great as a lot of the builds are out there, there are still the feeling of, yeah, that doesn't quite look right, or yeah, I can tell you used a bunch of props to pull that off. It's not quite the fidelity I think that we're all expecting for EverQuest Next just yet.
Yeah. I would say though, and I don't mean to sound like I'm tooting my own horn with this one because I was helping with facilitating getting this done.
Well, it was a
But
big. This was a big.
the materials thing,
Yeah,
Oh,
that
toot
was a big.
away because you were right on that, my friend.
it's
And that
something
was
that I
important.
know has
Yeah.
bugged a lot of people for a long time. I've ranted about it many, many times, and then having it finally come through, it's made so much. I've already seen so many amazing things. Just the trapdoors themselves actually became a lot more possible because with everything lining up one by one, the oh kitty, the rivets and such for the metal looking ones and everything lining up like the actual material. It just works so well, and it not just with that, but just being able to finally mix and match materials in such a way that we weren't able to before. You can use tile along with lines and trim and all sorts of things to have this really neat, intricate set of lines and shapes and spaces, but using a very common set of materials to you know basically compose something that looks very well designed and handcrafted and done with all intention as if the materials were made for that specific build. So that's the sort of stuff I'm
Yeah.
really enjoying with it. But now that we have that, the ability to utilize that along with some of this extra voxel technology that's come through, being able to just have a strip of metal that's just as thin as the rivets, for example, to have a specific look like that, or just having little balls that look like little rivets floating in space.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's a lot of weird stuff I've seen.
My main concern with the, or not concern, but with the textures, we have those 5 levels of gray, and then we have the other stone texture that is the cobblestone, right? And before you could take the normal gray stone, and then you could take the cobblestone and kind of mix them together, mix and match, and kind of paint and decide. But with the 5 shades of gray, you can't use that cobblestone texture. So I'm not sure like what is the solution to that? Do they make 5 cobblestone textures? Do they maybe make it, maybe they make the 5 different textures, but they have it, hidden behind a cool interface where it's like not such a mass of textures in front of you.
Right, right. Yeah, and it's the kind of the difficult thing that they're limited to how many materials they can add. So for them to just add 5 materials like that, that's not as big of a deal. But to add 50 materials just so we have a nice gradation of gray stone to work with, that's starting to get into like a really huge chunk that they're going to
It's
want for other stuff.
it's a bad system I think it's a bad system to try to implement like all those different gradations, when you could do that maybe with a graphical system or something like that.
Potentially. I mean, the other thing is I understand what the purpose of it was, and it kind of seemed like it was added. I wouldn't say necessarily hastily, but just done in a as a very quick kind of
Reactionary response, right?
yeah, as kind of a quick detail, just to kind of give a little bit of extra stuff for the people that were looking for it. Yeah, 64-bit. It's the Switch DirectX 11 is what will allow for more materials, and I'm hoping Player Studio materials as well, because I'd love to make actual materials that I can work with in game.
Oh, that's an interesting concept. I like that idea. But don't they? You said they had a finite number of.
Yeah, 512 right now, but
Okay,
once they move to DirectX 11, that limit goes up by another power of 2, I believe, or a power of 8 or something.
okay, but
It
still
go
limited.
it not a limit we'll have to worry about at that
Okay,
point. It'll be a lot.
okay.
So that's pretty exciting. I'm
Hmm.
really looking forward to seeing with all the voxel stuff here that we were talking about, and all the stuff that we'll be able to see them do with all of our requests for what kind of tools we want and how we want them to kind of go with the stuff, because they're still just working on getting the building tools really nice right now. They're just trying to get them really nice before SOE live, but that isn't the cutoff point. They're going to keep on working on them after this. So it's going to be a long work in progress. I'm going to link it. I don't remember if I linked it earlier. If you're interested in 4K textures, hell yes. Not going to run out there.
Yamano, I agree with Yamano. He's saying, but please take the tools away from the inventory. Yeah, there's no reason for tools to be taking up inventory at this point.
Well, it goes back to what I said in the beginning. It's
Yeah, I
mean,
agree. Go ahead,
yeah.
explain the thought, because I think that was pre-show. So.
Yeah, and no, yeah, and I understand. They had those tool systems, and they talked about it where it was already a system built into the game, so they have to design a completely new system to hold those tools and that kind of thing. But at the same time, they are selling bag space, so it would be advantageous for them to fill up players' bag space with materials, which I completely disagree with. That's my one rant. I don't think materials should take up player space. I think that's a complete creative block, roadblock for people. And I think that, the decision to put materials in the bags might have been a financial one, trying to sell that bag space, and I think it's a bad direction.
Yeah,
That's
I
my
was
rant.
just going to say I agree with you. I totally understand that, again, the game is going to be free to play. They're going to have to generate money somehow. But there are a million and one other things we're going to be getting in the game world. Forcing items into your inventory just to force you is not something I'm crazy about. And I'm not struck that that's their design philosophy. They're not, they really don't strike me as we're trying to nickel and dime you along the way. So I would like to see them remove those. Who knows? Like someone's saying, when we get the recipe book and things like that, I'm hoping the tools will get out of our inventory and perhaps go somewhere like that.
Okay, now here's the thing though. For me, I've got an obsidian tower. It takes 500,000 obsidian to plop it down in the world. Our inventory limit on is what, 50,000, 100,000 obsidian before it goes into overflow. So I have to have my inventory full of obsidian, my vault full of obsidian, and my any chests on the claim full of obsidian just for me to even be able to paste the tower. That's a really big problem. That's, going above and beyond, oh, well, an advanced player can get more space if they need to. No, that's bogus. And beyond that, it's bogus to limit players who are, all they're trying to do in the world to make their place is collect materials and sell them in mass bulk to other people. It's really limiting their playstyle if they can't hold that 10 million that they're able to harvest, and they're set to harvest, and they've been wheeling and dealing with other people with other materials to get. So it's I understand, the limitation is there because the expectation is we are going to have to buy the space, and maybe if we are actually live with the game, that would be a little bit of a different story. But even with that, I would say the people that bought their founders packs, even the $20 version, or even people who are in without a founders pack who got one of the keys, it still seems like at this point in the game, the limit on materials is not really helping. But the other thing, I don't really know how much people discuss it, so I don't know how much they know it's really an issue. Kodi, you got a smile. Is it
Yeah, I was spotting about something else, sorry, but yeah, it is a serious issue, and it's a designed flaw in the game, which that's what bothers me the most. They decided to put the inventory into our inventory, and I think it's wrong. Maybe there could be a compromise. Maybe it's only gems that go in our inventory if it's overflow. Maybe if but not the raw building materials. I need that stone. I need the sand. I need the dirt to build up my structures to submit for EverQuest to help them build their game. That's what I'm
right?
trying to do.
Yeah.
So that's my take on it.
I remember I was all confused when I was playing the game, and suddenly I'm like, what do you mean I have no inventory? What the hell's going on? And I realized I was overflowing with dirt.
Yeah.
And I was like, where
I've
did all
seen
this
that
dirt
one
come from?
before.
And then it took me like a little while to figure out, oh, there's a cap on materials here in the material storage. That's not right. Other than that one time, especially now that you sift dirt to get the upgrade items, It has not been an issue for me. I have never hit cap on anything else, and I build a lot in stone, but I don't build to the level that you guys do. So, as a casual player, it wasn't a huge deal for me, but as a builder, I can see why those things are a big deal. We're a half hour into this, and we still haven't even begun to discuss anything in our show notes.
Well, that's the start of a good show, right?
Exactly.
So, okay, and now that's the other thing. We started a little bit early because the workshop wrapped up a little early, and that's totally awesome. Are you guys willing to go for a full 2 hours plus the pre-show, or are you
Well,
guys on like
Jesus,
a 2 hour
man,
limit?
let's not drag it out for 2.5 hours. If there's not 2.5 hours worth of stuff to talk about, let's talk and see where the show goes.
Clearly, we can be talking about just the voxelmancy for.
I know, yeah, but exactly.
And I think Omid just showed up in chat too. So
Yeah, he certainly
we got to
did.
get going.
He certainly did.
All right, so why don't we start off here? We'll come back to the detailed voxelmancy.
Yeah,
at the
we can
show.
come
How about
back
that?
later.
Let's
for
get
sure.
to some of the topics. So you started off the whole show notes this week by asking, do y'all think the rest of the blueprint stuff for post E3 will actually go in before July?
Wait, which set of notes are you looking at?
I think I'm looking at the right set of notes. I'm looking at the notes you shared with me last week. This is why you need to send me the link to the notes you're looking at, silly man.
Okay. Well, you should. You're the one. You're the one who's linked in it here. But anyway, no. The what's going on the list here? There is the Landmark Live stuff. What we kind of talked about or what was talked about on the show there.
Yeah, whatever notes you created, I don't have access to
Okay.
me. You've
Okay.
got to reshare the document with me every week.
Gotcha.
That's usually the way it works. So.
Gotcha. You should be able to edit it though. Weird. Oh well. Then there's the voxelmancy kind of explanation. Then they talked about the shared view with tools, the My Store feature, and the Gem Finders brooch. So,
Okay,
shared,
so dude,
shared
seriously, share the link to the show notes with me before you continue on, so I see what you're doing here.
Cool. I'm gonna have to break the cameras here to do that. So,
All right. Well, we'll talk to the chat room for a minute.
cool. Give me just a moment then. Why don't you?
Let's see. La, 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 la. No, everybody's kissing Omid's butt. That's usually what happens when Omid walks into the chat.
Don't feel like that. He's the senior brand
I
manager.
love Omid. I think very highly of Omid. I'm just teasing.
There, you should be able to see it there. All right. Switching
Okay,
back.
there we go. Good, perfect.
Okay, and bringing our
Oh, you know what?
faces back up here.
Let me give you a link. I added some images too.
Okay,
Oh,
dude,
neat.
still not seeing it.
Weird.
You've got to add my email. You got to add
You're
my
on
email.
it.
Just drop the link here in the chat for me, please.
I just did.
Oh, that chat. All right. Thank you.
Sorry, folks. Technological differences.
All righty. So you guys went over voxelmancy. There.
Yeah.
Now we're okay.
Yeah,
now
we're
I'm
talking
looking
about-
at this
we're
week,
talking
not
about
last
the,
week. Now I know what we're doing. All right. We're like trained professionals here. Shared view with tools. That's probably
Yes,
where you
that's
guys
what
wanna
we're
go, which
talking
is
about.
awesome
Yes.
because I've already had friends trying to explain to me in game. Oh no, you're doing that the hard way. You should do this, and not understand what they're saying and wishing that I could see what he was doing.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a huge help, and also mainly for like online demonstrations on Twitch and stuff. Like they're going to be able to do. Tema's going to be able to do a demo exactly how to do stuff with his tools in front of you. So
Yeah.
it's going to help.
It's going to give people, I mean, you can have one person doing the demo and a bunch of people filming it from different angles, so you can have a multi-angle demo stream or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
There's a lot of possibilities. But the fact that we'll actually have that as a feature, and I don't know if that also means like mining tools. That'd be kind of interesting because I'd love to be able to see where the other people I'm mining with are actually aiming their tools at. That way, we can kind of spread out a little bit and make a large path rather than everybody just going in a straight line. It'd be great
Yeah,
to get
I
Steve Denuser in the
wonder-
workshop. Yeah.
I wonder how will that be incorporated into PvP? Will it be some kind of telekinesis thing where you can see what people are doing? maybe that's going to be an EverQuest next. All these systems and mechanics, they're probably just going to build up upon them. So I'm
Yeah.
interested to see how it works. So, and Dave seems excited about it.
Yeah.
So,
I
Mm.
mean that'll actually be a lot of fun for when I eventually do that giant line tool only build that I'm eventually gonna do.
mm.
Not sure when, but probably gonna schedule it sometime this week.
Sometime.
Yeah. So, anything else on the shared view with the tools? It's a really cool feature. It'll be great to have. Great for streamers. Great for people in game. Great for everybody. I mean, streamers didn't really need it, but you know, people watching somebody building as they're streaming will be able to see it. When
Yeah.
I'm on Castles and Crap Shacks, I can see, oh, hey, this person's actually building, rather than just if they're just kind of standing there with their hand out, if they're
Yeah.
actually building, if they're just AFK.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think that'll bring up a lot of opportunity for people to do demonstrations in game and be able to do one-on-one tutorials with people that way. So it definitely, it's not a tool that's super, I think, important or useful for like a live streamer who's demonstrating live, but definitely for folks who are in game, it'll be very, very useful.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, not a live streamer, so it's like an in game where other people can see. And I guess it's color coded as far as I understand it. So kind of like the voxel vision system. So, and maybe, that could be incorporated in some kind of PvP mini game. I know Jiminy Mocha does mini games on his stream with like Pictionary. So maybe you could have the different blocks, doing stuff. I don't know.
Yeah.
So people will figure stuff out to do it.
Oh yeah,
I'm sure.
they'll you find useful and creative ways to work that into gameplay for sure.
Ah, voxel Pictionary. That Jimmy's a smart fella.
Playing a 2D game in a 3D world.
Yeah.
It's a genius.
Makes sense. All right. So the My Store features. That's the next thing up here.
Yep.
So that's really cool, and it's I would say the start of potentially a much larger system. So this is extending upon the ability to put things on Player Studio. We'll now be able to manage those items. I think we can hide them if we want to. Adjust the price if we increase the price and it goes beyond the kind of threshold we've put to list it with, then we have to pay a little bit more extra, but we can raise and lower it pretty much at will. So if something's selling really well, you can do that. But I don't know if we necessarily have those kind of metrics yet. Eventually, I'm pretty sure we will have real-time, up-to-date metrics on how many of each unit's being sold and how much real cash money are actually being paid out from each item, plus or minus the station cash devaluing from double and triple station cash sales, or not sales, but days that they had it. Um, so it's something that we're going to have probably all of those features at some point when they've got the system implemented for it. But for right now, it's just giving us management. We can tell what the status of our items is. We can adjust the prices, hide them.
But I know, like
Put
I know,
them
like
back up.
right now, the biggest issue for people putting stuff up on the store is not knowing if it's been accepted or if it's showing up for people. And I think this is going to make it a little easier for folks to know what's going on with their items as they've been uploaded.
Believe it or not, I think that's actually the second most influential thing with the system that people want to have change. The biggest is actually not being able to do a fly through or multiple screenshots of a claim, or not a claim but a template. A lot of builders I've talked to said that's their big beef, is that they can't show all the different angles of something. Like Poro Sorceress was saying her sculptures, she wanted to be able to show the front and the side and the back and the three-quarter view and all that nice fancy stuff, but you don't really get to see that in one shot. So that's one of the other features that My Store, I don't know if it's coming with this version of it or if the next version or the next update to it will have that, but that'll be a big deal. Kodi, you've got stuff up on Player Studio, don't you?
Yeah, I have a couple things up there, and yeah, I mean, I think taking multiple screenshots is a big deal because I have like a roof on there, and I have a screenshot of the top, but no one knows what the interior looks like, so they don't know if it's garbage on the inside, if it's all rough, you know. So
Omid
that's going to
saying
be a
they're going to be
huge,
adding it. Omid
yeah.
says these
Cool
screens.
deal.
Yeah.
That's gonna be a huge help. But in the meantime, I put a link, to my website, which you can do in the description, and or put it on your Twitter feed and say, I have images over here, or direct link to multiple
Yeah.
images. So you could do it yourself. They're not kind of restricting you to that aspect of it.
Excellent.
Cool. Well, that's a good thing to do then.
Fantastic.
But yeah, you're definitely right that the knowing whether or not the item's actually up, whether it's been accepted, what state it's in, that was something that was really hindering people before, and now we know kind of where it's at. I'm still not sure 100% on where I participate in the thumbs up or thumbs down process on things that aren't actually listed. Do either of you guys know?
I do not.
Yeah, I don't know how that works. I know there's like four primary methods. There's the player review, and that's what you're talking about. And I haven't gotten any player
I
review
haven't
message.
either, and I have dropped at least 1,000 station cash in the store, and I have never been once asked to provide any feedback on Player Studio items. So I don't know what's going on there.
Yeah, weird. I don't know how it's supposed to work, or if it's just that there's like it happens. Two people get a notification the moment something's submitted, and it's just too random. Maybe it's because there's the priority system that the more people have gotten it right, the more it goes to them. So it's almost like this, I don't want to say nepotism, but
Mm.
this kind of thing where we already know that you make good decisions, therefore we're going to send more decisions your way.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
said they had some kind of built-in system for that, so some kind of algorithm. And Omi just said in chat, if you've been selected for that, you get the notification in game. So maybe it's just one person that gives you yes or no, and
Yeah.
that's how
Yeah. Yeah, don't
that's
know. Like I said, I have spent the prerequisite amount of money to be tagged to be involved in that, and I have never seen the system ask me when I've logged in, "Hey, could you vote on this?" It's never happened.
Tem and go.
And Coda Voss is saying he got player review 4 items every day, but I've never spent any station cash. Do I bought some and spent it after the PS patch? He says he gets 4 items review. Yeah, well, you know what? Maybe I'll post about it in the forums because I'm guessing that's a bug then.
Shouldn't be an issue. Shouldn't be favoring anyone at this point. Could be
Yeah,
screwed
that's
up.
what that's
All
what I
right.
figured Omid probably. So I'll make a point of making a post about it and seeing if something's just gone wonky in the back end. Because I spent real money, damn it.
you want your voice heard on those items, those templates.
Yeah, I would like to be involved in that. I'm not an Uber builder. I've said this before on the show. Right now, my biggest contribution is either A, just being a member of the community, and B, being a data point for their review. I'm not a builder. That is one of those things that I could be of help for. So I would like to be involved, but like I said, I'll follow up on the forums for that.
One cool thing is they did mention players will get in-game emails if a status changes. So, like if you get accepted through customer review, if you get accepted through the actual dev review or any other status change, like someone buys something, you'll get an in-game email, so you will be notified. So it won't be a big question mark. Like someone sent me feedback. They're like, I bought something, trying to support you, and that was really awesome that they sent me the email and purchased it. But it'd
Yeah.
be cool if it did that automatically.
Yeah. Coda is also making a point that he bought Station Cash and spent it after the Player Studio patch. So I spent money before the player. Like I spent money like my first week or two in game to buy some clothes. So that might be it. Maybe something's happening in the system. People who spent it previous to that aren't being counted.
I don't know. I think maybe they're still just working out the details with it. It seems like people who actually have items on Player Studio should probably also be involved with the process, even if they haven't spent that much. But
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
That's an idea. That's an idea.
It's all just a work in progress. This is still just the early implementation of it. So
I should probably myself probably go through the trouble of getting my tax info in because right now, even though I'm not a builder, I will probably be wanting to do like the dungeon making stuff down the road. So I
Yeah.
should probably make a point of getting my info in.
I think that's where the majority of the landmarkians are gonna like. I think that's where the end game is for landmark. Dungeon makers,
Hmm.
people
Yeah,
making those dungeons. Putting their idea into
yeah,
reality and making it easy. So right
yeah.
now we're kind of like in the initial process. We don't have all the little pieces, the assets, but we're building them. So it's
End
exciting.
game? Are you kidding me? That's where the game starts.
Exactly.
Mm, very much,
All the
very
stuff in
much.
the world, that's just, I'm not going to call it like static threats because it's going to be a dynamic world, but we're going to be able to know and learn those things. Just all the stuff people build on their claims is what's going to be really unique and really interesting. And depending on the level of versatility, on one of his personal streams, Adam Clegg was saying he actually wanted to have something like a procedural roguelike of an MMO, something like The Binding of Isaac or one of those kind of games, but as an MMO. And I said, well, if you want to pitch an idea like that, let me know and I'll help you write something up. I think ultimately it would be taking what already exists in Landmark, the kind of tools and features that exist, and just extrapolating on it.
Yep. I tweeted Jeff Butler and I asked him, I said, my dream game is a MMORTS that's top down in the 1920s. And I kind of built it's very specific, but I kind of, it's like a mob game. But I tweeted him this and I said, is this ever going to be possible in Landmark? Can I build a RTS game in Landmark, like from map view? And he said, yes, it is very possible. And it's something that he would like to do. So it's exciting.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the stuff I'd love to see. That being able to set up custom controls to have the camera flat to the character, so that you can have the side profile at all times, and you make a platformer out of it, or you
Why
can make
not?
a really
Well,
cinematic
that would
platformer.
kind of cool, actually. That's a
Uh,
good idea.
all the
That
sorts
is a
of
really great idea, actually. Yeah.
pretty much any, as far as I'm concerned, any genre of game could potentially be built in Landmark. We just need to be given the tools to do it, the tools and the control over what players are able to do. And that's kind of the weird thing is if I go on a claim where I'm restricted to first-person shooter controls, then that would mean I would have to sit there for a moment and fine-tune a different set of controls in my controls menu or something for this person's version of first person shooter controls, or a unified set that we agree upon. Mario World 1 in Landmark? Oh yeah, absolutely. Doom 1? Absolutely. There was already a Quake 2 build that I saw. The Edge was the map that was being built in homage. And other than the lifts actually working with the arrows pointing up and walking up and having it send you through, it looked really, really to the style, and the design of that level is absolutely lovely. Oh
Mm.
my goodness.
Yeah, I'm really interested to see, like how that, of course, people are going to be able to make their own rule sets on their claims in Landmark, but how will that affect the user? Will they have to change buttons? Maybe there'll be like four preset game types. There'll have to be some kind of standard, like you said, some kind of like best game practices where like, you have to choose a category of game type maybe, and then that way, people can set up maybe four UIs for the different game types, where it's something manageable. So it's a design problem I haven't thought of, and I hope the EverQuest devs think about how that will affect the UI, the different game types that players make.
Cool.
Unfortunately, from what I understand, or at least what I had been kind of told at the event back in January, we aren't actually going to be able to have the ability to break into first-person shooter style controls and restrict people to that, or restrict people to a camera being a certain way and doing the platformer controls. So they very well may have changed their tune on that, or may very well have said like, no, definite no for now, but secretly, yeah, we kind of want to do that. Or it could be something where they realize instead of making more tools and more features to make other games, they could just make the content so that people can make whatever kind of games they want in Landmark and monetize gameplay of it. I could see a MOBA, even a potentially like small subscription based MOBA, actually existing in
Oh yeah,
Landmark.
oh yeah. Why not? Why not? Absolutely. All they need is the proper scripting and the proper optimization and LOD, which is level of detail. And that's like the LOD systems in Landmark is right now kind of the main factor of what's happening with that optimization and the lag, as far as I understand it. It's like we have, we can put so many props on our claim. It's kind of ridiculous the amount of props that they gave us to explore and have fun. But ultimately, like, they don't have those, usually in a video game they have like 3 or 4 versions of a prop. So like when you're far away, you see like the really low res polygon version. So like right now, if you're in map view, you don't see any props. So they kind of need to add like those props for map view, and then all those different. But that's like work. They have to make a prop 5, 6, 7 times to do that, and that's why that optimization is a slow process and does take a lot of time.
Diggs, I honestly don't know which particular NDA restrictions, other than like specific names of classes and their weapons they may be using from the EverQuest Next office itself at SOE. I don't think there's really anything I can talk about that hasn't already been revealed at this point. So I think I'm pretty good on that front.
Mm.
Just staying on the topic of player store real quick, I just wanted to mention a couple things.
Mm-hmm.
They mentioned that we could change the item price on the fly. So
Yes.
that was very, very important to me, because they were after that they talked about allowing for marketing and discount packages and things like that, like Steam does. So by allowing us to change prices on the fly, we could essentially make those kind of discounted packages independent of the game. So we could have on the website, if you buy one thing, you can get all these things for 25% off, and then we can manually change the price in the game for maybe like a day for that person to buy the
Yeah,
stuff,
you
or
can
a group
sale
of
or
people,
something.
and then you bring it back up. Now it is kind of concerning, because that kind of skews the market price a little bit. And like, if this person has 1,000 sales on this item, which is worth $10, but they sold it for 25 cents to 999 people, it's a little bit
That's
kind of
that's
it's a little sketchy.
capitalism.
Yeah.
That's capitalism.
It's
That's an open.
capitalism, but hey,
And
we're
okay,
in a new
everybody get your
world, my
drinks.
friend. We're in a
Everybody
new
playing
world.
the Star Wars Galaxy drinking game, get ready. Uh,
We're in a
Crafting
new
in Star
world.
Wars Galaxies, players, had the ability to set up their own vendors, and I mean, players were constantly. I believe me, there were wars on my server. I was one of the top 3 shipwrights on my server, and there were wars over my pricing model because I was pricing based fairly on what my time was worth. Other people were gouging, and it really, it sets you out very quickly how you were pricing, the quality of what you were doing, and it will settle itself out over time.
It's the most interesting game in MMOs, in my opinion, the marketplace, because
I
it's
agree.
it's
The
just so
player
dynamic, and it's
player
so
run
like
economy
real.
is fascinating.
Yeah.
Fascinating. It really is.
But one other thing, real quick, is we can do the gallery created, or we can search the gallery by player names, which is, I think, huge,
I
because
agree.
name
I agree.
recognition is huge in this game already. And, if you're mentioned on Landmark Live, and then people can just type in your name and see all the stuff you made, that's huge.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, again, you build reputation. I think that's part of why right now, that you only have the one character is they want you to build your reputation on that character, and being able to search somebody just by name is definitely a step in the right direction for that.
So one other thing, catalogs. This is something we haven't really seen much yet, but as people improve what they've got, especially having a bunch of modular pieces, I could see this being a thing where you sell this catalog of all of the different parts that you have in this package for 100 station cash or less. It's something that someone's not really going to be able to do functionally too much with, unless they're trying to make some sort of weird like MC Escher crazy
So it's like
house or
a
whatever.
cheap preview version, essentially.
Yeah, it's like all the pieces just exploded in space, so you can
I
look
like
at
that.
them from all the different angles. That's something I haven't seen people doing, but that's something I could see being really popular. You don't even need the. I mean, there's the multi-screenshot feature now. It'd be great, but ultimately for someone to see, all of the awesome 200 item set that you put out or whatever in one little catalog and see everything that you've done with it, I think that'd be really, really powerful.
Mm.
and be a great, you'd be making just meager amounts off of it, if anything. You could just price it at one station cash or however the lowest is.
I think it's
uh
25 right now.
25, yeah. And even that,
Well,
that's
the thing is, it's based on your voxel count. So if you have a higher voxel count, you have to pay more. So if you have like a full claim of all your stuff, unfortunately, the way that the system's worked out, you're gonna have to pay like at least 10 or like a lot of money to place it.
okay. So then maybe a catalog would actually have to be a special designation. Maybe it'd be a non-purchase item even, or that you just it's a one-time purchase to be able to access all of the catalogs that anybody ever makes. Like you spend 500 station cash or something once, and you have all the access. So anybody who puts out a catalog, you can just grab it, plop it down, see what's on it, see what you like, and if there's nothing you're interested in, just delete it, grab the next one, and keep on going.
Yeah, that's an interesting idea. I think. Well, I mentioned to one of the devs that what about a subscription system where you give $5 a month to a player, a specific player that you like, and then whatever they produce during that month, you have access to, or something like that.
Yeah, that could be interesting, like a subscription sort of thing for builders. Yeah. Yeah, that's actually, yeah, I can see. I
It's an
know
idea.
Omid's in here. He's the brand manager. He's
Come on,
probably
Avid.
he's looking at this stuff.
The
You might
problem
have
with
been the
that
person I told.
the problem with that is going to be, however, is okay, you subscribe to that player and then suddenly they lost interest in the game, and they don't turn anything out that month. What happens then?
Well, you cancel your subscription. I mean, yeah, it's a trust-based thing. It's any subscription. What about a Twitch streamer who decides to stop streaming? It's kind of that
Yeah,
same
that's true.
kind of mentality. But I think the advantage is, the builders are going to have that steady flow of money coming in. That's going to keep them going if they're wanting to do it full time. It seems kind of like it could be a sporadic thing the other way around.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
One more thing I want to mention.
Go for it.
It's July. I think it's July 18th is the cutoff for voxel ownership, or it could have been a different date. I'm not sure if Chad can help me out on that, or maybe Omid can help me out. But they said that they're going to wipe all voxel ownership from whatever template you have in your inventory from a certain date. So that was like a big kind of change. That's been a big concern for a lot of people. Like, I built something and then I shared it with people, but now it says they own it. So, and then we're selling it. So it's a weird, awkward situation.
Yeah.
I feel like, they should have done a complete wipe, but a lot of people disagree with me on that one because they don't want to lose their templates, and I don't blame them. But I think this
June
is kind of a
18th
good
is
solution.
right. Yeah. By the way, Omid's piping up the idea of the subscription. He says that it could be something for down the road, but we would need some established people up front. Not sure how it would work at this point, but it is not a bad idea at all. So, they're taking notes.
Yep.
Cool.
For
Good.
sure.
So, you guys who are building, again, the end result is you're all going to get rich, and I'm going to be forced to have.
Well, Omid said I would be rich. Omid said I would make more than the devs, potentially. Potentially.
Well, no, not necessarily though, Adam, because once the interactions start coming through, I don't know how that's going to be set up in the marketing with that. But if you can design yourself a hell of an encounter in somebody's awesome kick-ass build that they've already designed, that sort of stuff, that's great synergy. You'd actually potentially be able to buy their dungeon one time, fill it out with all the creatures you want, put that entire, basically instance up as its own encounter, as its own, template,
Yeah.
and someone can buy that. They're still getting the dungeon the person bought, so that person's getting kickbacks from that. But then they're also getting all of your, scripting work and design work for the encounter there. So that's something I could see where you would be able to leverage the awesome stuff people are already doing. And maybe if there's something that, you decide you want to get a little creative with, you buy up some of the modular parts for something and then just put them together because it's real easy to do.
You make a very, very good point. You're right. You're right. I wasn't even thinking in those terms. So,
So
good.
there's opportunities for a lot
And
of
as far as
people.
I understand, that's going to be incorporated right into EverQuest Next. As far as I understand it, people will in EverQuest Next will be able to buy access to player-made instances, and that money will just trickle down to everyone who worked on it in whatever fashion. If it was someone scripting the AI, maybe doing voiceover work for the boss mobs, who knows? But apparently, I think it's all going to go to the right people based on their system.
Excellent. Anything else we want to say about the My Store features before we move on to the next thing in the notes?
I'm looking at you, Kodi, because you had one more
Yeah.
thing about 5 more times, and it's been really awesome because we've been able
Yeah,
to
so
have
we
a
don't
lot
want
of
to
great
cut you off.
discussion.
You got any-
Okay,
you want-
well, okay, yeah, no, that's it for that.
Okay. No, I mean,
So-
if you've got anything else, please do say it because this is the time.
Yeah.
But otherwise, we can move on.
Nope, that's it
Gem
for the
Finder's
Okay.
Brooch.
Yeah,
so,
the July
new item
item.
this month. Yeah, and obviously last month's item caused a little bit of drama for those who were really wanting an item like that, and there was some innuendo that I guess some folks at SOE thought this month's item might even upset more people, but the response was, I don't need that for most of the builders, whereas I was like, ooh, I'm going to use that in caves.
Yeah, for me, it's the idea that it's a permanent item and it only lasts for, it lasts for one full damn hour. So if I'm just going out, I'm not even looking at it in the context of finding materials. I'm just using it to spot my pocket caves and keep track of where everything's at. If I just cast it once or whatever and I've got it up for an hour, that's great. I can just go down into wherever I need to go and start kind of charting notes a little bit of the direction and the distances, and just dig from one to the next to the next to the next and find my chests.
By the way, while I know Umid is here and he's watching, I do want to I made the suggestion over Twitter to a couple of the devs, but I want to make sure someone over there hears it. What would be really useful for cave exploring is an item I can drop as a marker, like a breadcrumb. Because I am getting lost left and right in those goddamn things. So make that happen, please.
Some glow sticks or something, yeah.
They definitely,
now,
like,
my
you go
workaround
in,
is
you're
to,
lost. You can't find the entrance. Like, you go 5 feet, you can't find the entrance.
Right now, my workaround is to mark an X in front of all right, I went down that tunnel, and I'll use the pulverizer and make a mark on the floor, and then I'll go down that aisle, and then I'll come back, and then I'll make a mark in front of that row, and then I'll move, so it would be nice to be able to just drop markers to be like, yeah, I've already been here, because I am running around in circles in caves.
Yeah. That's actually the game Legend of Dungeon. They're very nice that if you go through doors enough times, it starts getting brighter and brighter, so you know you've been through it. But there's also a spray paint item you can find, which I use to mark the way. If I've gone through a door, I'll mark it on both sides so I know I've already been through it.
It's a good idea.
Makes it a hell of a lot easier when I'm trying to find my way through or what I still haven't explored yet.
Absolutely. But this Gem Finder's brooch, I'm at least initially, it doesn't seem like folks are upset that it's a streamer item. And they did make clear during Landmark Live that for now, that's how you're going to get this item. Items similar to this that do similar things will show up in the game later on. So
Oceans.
If you get it now, you'll have this ability later on down the road.
So you think it'll be consumable items, Nero, not like a...
Probably. That's kind of what they did with, like the
Double jump?
The double jump items, the feather in the bottle and the things like that. The items that you can get in the chest are consumable, not a permanent. So, probably
That's a
something
huge
along those
difference.
lines.
Yeah.
I mean, I could definitely see permanent items being craftable later on. Like everything we see right now could all very easily just be kind of like, not necessarily low tier items, but call them season 1 items. And sure, season 1 items, we establish the effect, everything's in balance with itself. The season 2 items come through and it just blows everything out of the water. One item that's got maxed out jump height and double jump on it and gliding on it, sure, why the hell not? That's...
I hope not.
That would be a little too powerful.
Arendandel is saying, make it literal. Hansel's bread loaf. Use the item to leave a glowing trail of crumbs for 5 minutes or something. Great idea. It needs to be more than 5 minutes. I'm spending more than 5 minutes in caves exploring. Some of these cave systems, you're in there for a half hour.
Well, you are.
I haven't gone into caves very much. I've explored them a little bit, for chests, poured it in, but I'm a builder. I'm on the surface
Yeah.
building stuff.
No, I'm still desperately after a
Yeah.
belt of Zephyr. I've yet to get.
Yeah.
So I'm.
That's
Okay, well, check out some streams because they're giving away.
yeah.
Tons of streamers are giving away
Well,
all those
that's
chest
no fun. I
items.
want to find it. I want to get the
I
satisfaction
just
of
want
opening
it.
that chest and it showing up in my loot spam. That's what I want to see happen. So
I can get that kind of satisfaction from the second one later when I'm exploring and fighting things. I was glad to just receive the one that I've got and just be able to glide around. And to be perfectly honest, I've been loving that thing for doing the Castles and Crap Shacks tours because I can just find a really high point,
Spin around.
turn off my UI, and fly around it, and it actually looks really cool.
And I think
there
if you
is
hit
Diggs is
shift,
asking. Yeah, sorry, Diggs is asking. I thought there was a belt of Zephyr in the chest. There is,
Yeah.
but I'm saying I haven't found one yet. I've found a lot of chests. Have not. I've got more light stones than I'm ever going to know what to do with, but I have yet to find a belt of Zephyr.
I think if you hit shift with the belt of Zephyr, you actually like go into like a Superman like
Yes.
fly mode. It's
Yeah,
pretty
I
awesome.
know. Rub it in. It looks awesome. I want
It's
it.
cool. It's
I want
cool.
it now.
Yeah.
So great item. I like that it's a useful item, and it ties into caves. And I look forward to getting a gem finder's brooch when I have the chance. Oh wait, I'm already getting one. I want it in your channel.
Yeah. Yeah.
Completely as a fluke. Did not expect to win that drawing either. I was
Yeah.
like, whoa, how did I luck
That
out with
was
that?
pretty hilarious. You remember
It
what the
was.
number was?
No, I don't. But I remember I was just jumping around and guessing just to be silly,
I think it was 78.
something like that. Yeah.
You have the best giveaways, Neuro.
Thanks.
1 through 100 giveaway. You just got to type numbers and just hope for the best.
Well, it's the stuff that's built into Nightbot. It's kind of fun.
True.
So, anything else from Landmark Live that you guys want to talk about before we move on to the workshop show?
I'm good, but I'll leave it to you guys if you had any more you wanted to say about that.
Before we get into the workshop, I had a couple things I want to talk about. Key binding changes. That's
Oh
huge.
yeah, that is huge.
So I'm excited about that because, I mean, that's just thinking about it. Like, how will that affect my building? Am I going to spend like 6 hours like literally finding out what's the best setup to be maximize my building?
My muscle memory, though, has gotten very used to the layout to the point where when I do log into EverQuest 2 to do a little questing, I keep trying to grapple things. So, like, as nice as that is, I'm probably not going to tinker with it too much because I've kind of learned the layout as it is right now. So,
I feel like now is the time. If you're going to do it, they just implemented the options to like kind of rearrange how you're going to do it. So,
Dude, I still try to shift space control to jump slide like you do in Warframe. I'm not
well, I'm
kidding.
just Shift Tab instead of tilde because they switched that one on us, and I probably want to change it back actually because they said they did like when they did the Steam integration, they're like, oh, we can't use Shift Tab for the tool change option because that brings up the Steam menu for your friends list. So I don't play it through Steam, so I'm just gonna swap that back to Shift Tab.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
A couple things. Next week they're gonna have new outfits. They were talked about Voxel Farm rotating templates, which is that's huge. That's not small. That's huge because they weren't really talking about that at all.
You're talking about arbitrary rotation angles or like the not 90 degree but like 45 or different angles?
It has to be 45s or more because why else would they mention it? And I know that Voxel Farm has been doing multiple angles, and I think it's even like a lot of angles. So it's exciting.
A lot of angles, everybody. Look forward to it.
Yep.
Man, like if they gave us intervals of 15, that would be just wonderful.
Oh yeah,
Spiral staircase would be super easy.
Everything would be easy. You do it on a 90-degree axis, and you're done. You can build anything on a 90-degree easily.
Yeah. Free rotation. Oh, free rotation. That's awesome, and it'll just do its very best to kind of interpolate the results in the voxels.
And they've been making improvements, like with the line tool, getting rid of that artifacting. You can already tell, like, and with the vectors being able to cross, cross paths. I think that's gonna really allow that system to work.
That should be really nice. Looking forward to it. It's going to make it a lot easier to do a very intricate build where you've got a bunch of things posted in a concentric, or not a concentric circle, but yeah, just in a big old circle, an even circle around something, in even intervals, like columns in a. I think of like Greek architecture, or like an amphitheater, or something like
Yeah.
that. Um, that'll be a hell of a lot easier. So I'm really looking forward to that. I didn't even realize I'm looking forward to it, but I totally am.
Yeah, or maybe a statue. Maybe you build this colossus statue that's facing north, but people want to face it west in their city, or
Right.
or maybe at some different obscure angle so it hits the light, and they can
Yeah.
really compose the shot to how to be a piece of art and not just like a 90-degree. This is how it is. So it's exciting.
Yeah, I mean that's definitely another thing I could see with it is changing the angle of the building just slightly so the light hits it in a certain way that you can't otherwise be able to do. They're saying that the vectors are still kind of janky with the rotation, but that sort of stuff will get worked through over time. Now with the key bindings, there was something really funny to me was that Omid didn't seem excited enough, and they got pissed off about it. That was just hilarious. That he,
I was excited about the key bindings. I
uh,
don't know what he's talking about. He doesn't build in landmarks, so don't worry about
Yeah,
me.
no, Elmead's not building nothing, so that's why he's like, "Yay!"
Whatever. He's not. He's not.
Exactly.
He's not mashing the keyboard like us builders.
Exactly. I know what I wanted to touch on real quick. Why do
Sure.
I have a feather duster? I don't know. I don't know where that came from. Um, for frame per second issues, frame rate issues, the last couple weeks have been plaguing folks. Last week's patch kind of had a stealth minor fix in it. Apparently, I did get a couple frames back, but still not to where I was beforehand. How about you guys? Were you being plagued by that, and has it gotten better for you by any chance?
Honestly, this is the first Castles and Crap Shacks in a long time where I was pretty much able to go from place to place to place, jumping many times across islands and servers without having to restart after every 3 jumps. So they
Okay.
definitely optimized some stuff that
Yeah.
hadn't been before.
How about you, Cody? Were you having any frame rate issues? Because some folks are, some aren't, and I know
Yeah,
that.
I mean, I ended up lowering my graphics down. I set them all on low, and then I ended up putting my textures up on like a medium, shadows on medium, and I've been hitting like 40 FPS. So it's definitely
Huh.
not a competitive frame rate by any means, because
Yeah.
it is kind of it intermittently changes. So it might go, it jumps, right? So it might be 10, it might be 40, depending
Yeah.
on what you're looking at. So.
And where you
But
are, what's going on?
But the
Yeah.
fact that I've seen improvements, and they're talking about those level of detail improvements that they're going to be doing in the future. So
Yeah.
that I think that's going to bring a huge increase to the performance. Hopefully.
Well, I've been pretty involved in the thread Steve Klug has been involved with trying to tweak, and I've certainly been offering whatever technical information I can, and most folks have. There's a couple folks just going to complain, and he said that the info has been very helpful, and it's helping him hone in on things. So, but yes, I will say this past week, which is why I have kind of gone back to exploring caves, is at least like in caves now, I'm back to over 25 frames a second out in the open world and near like my claim, like the new art for the Tinker's Workshop completely kills my frame rate. Like if I stand right next to it, it will drop 5 to 8 frames per second just standing next to it. So,
Wow.
Did you
there's
slash
definitely
bug that?
Yes, and I have given Steve Klug that technical information, standing here near this, doing this. So, I've given him all I could to try and make that better. And so I just wanted to point it out. It was a big discussion last week, so I know some folks were interested in hearing how that worked out. And they didn't mention in the notes that they had done anything, but yeah, we were there. It was definitely noticeable that something got tweaked. So. When I started playing the game, I was averaging 30 to 45 frames a second, which is, not the latest and greatest, the biggest and the baddest, but perfectly playable without feeling like you're being gimped in any stretch of the imagination. The only reason I didn't do what you did, Cody, when I set, I'm using a Radeon card, a 7770. Not the greatest, but not the worst. It's certainly kind of middle of the road value kind of card. But if I set things on low, like, for example, my character wears that Victorian outfit. with the the cool shoulder pad and all that. When I turn to low, I see the art assets underneath for the like with the art sort of panels that are hanging there, and it
Right.
looks
Yeah.
awful. It looks
Yeah.
awful, and I haven't seen a lot of frame rate increase by dropping down to low. So
Yeah, I think that's that, that level of detail, like creating that art asset at a lower quality. Maybe it's just not there, and that's why you're seeing right through it. And that's kind of like,
yeah,
in addition to that, reduction of, like what do I need to see? Do I
yeah,
need to see this high, super high texture thing, or do I just need to see, the low
yeah,
version?
yeah,
So
absolutely.
I think it's gonna happen over time, hopefully. But yeah, like I've noticed, there's like a black on my outfit, like part of it's completely black. It doesn't look good,
Yeah,
but yeah, deal with it. So
true,
Yeah.
for now.
absolutely.
Oh, Radeon cards. So I've
I
been
know.
finding more and more issues with Radeon cards. Like games I wouldn't expect to have issues. FTL had an issue with my brother's card. We had to update to the latest, like the 14.4 Catalyst.
Oh, well,
Um,
you're always going to have to update to the latest drivers,
Hotline Miami also doesn't work. Everything's all wonky. It's just that game you don't need the same kind of fidelity
Well,
for.
the machine I'm running here is an FX 8350 8 core CPU unlocked for like it was built for video editing,
Right.
but being a super fancy video card not necessary for video editing. Doesn't do it. I mean, doesn't do much to improve your situation. So when it came to spending money on the system, the video card was where I kind of went budget at the time. So generally
That's what I would.
speaking,
Yeah.
I have not had issues in games running this card. I'm usually have no problem getting nice frame rate. I can turn all the bells and whistles on. I sometimes have to tweak things like shadows a little bit, but it's normally never an issue for me. It's not a big deal. So, we'll get there. We'll get there.
You'll be converted eventually to the GTX
Well,
in the
if
i7.
someone wants to buy me one, I'll gladly put it in my machine. How about
Yeah.
that?
There you go. Yeah. Okay. So what else does I guess that's it for the landmark live stuff, so we can move on
Let's
to
check in. Let's check in on our race
That's a
voting.
good point.
I'm
How's
going
it
to refresh
looking?
this page. Refreshing.
And dwarves are ahead. Yes.
Whoa.
51-49.
Wait,
Oh wow,
that's a big jump.
yes, nice job, nice job, folks. We want
It is
dwarves.
razor
We want-
thin.
Well,
Yes,
it's
brass happy.
ah,
All right. So speaking
razor
of
thin.
dwarves and voting and the workshop show,
yep.
it was a good episode today. It was a short episode today, but it was neat. They went over a few things. So
Yeah.
let's see. You want to start with mounts first?
Yeah, so that was the roundtable for EverQuest Next this week, or last week rather, about mounts. And this wasn't that mounts are being tied to a specific race, that each race only gets one type of mount, but just what kind of mount would that race be represented by? What would they normally be riding? Just as like,
Their default.
yeah, well, if they're just going to, they go to someone in the town and it's like, hey, I need a mount. What's the mount that they're going to be given? Is it going to be a llama? Is it going to be a rhino? Is it going to be a gorilla? In this case,
Yeah.
it's a spider.
Yeah.
Well, was it spider or it was like anthropod, right?
It was arachnopod, I thought, or arachnid.
It's
thing.
basically a
Arachnid.
giant, scary-looking spider.
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah, everyone wants spider. They're going for spider.
yeah. Oh no, Adam, your camera, everything died. He'll be back. Um, yeah. So spiders, that should be interesting. Now, I
Are they
always
gonna have saddles?
yeah,
they're-
saddles or bareback. That's a good question.
I don't know.
For me, it just seems like that would be a really interesting, even difficult one to do as the first one. I don't think it's necessarily the first one the art team is going to do and implement. They have a long time before they have to do that. But when I think of anything more than a bipedal or quadrupedal creature, immediately I'm thinking, well, you have to not only have all of the legs coordinated with each other, but then inverse kinematics is an interesting issue because you have to have the legs actually attached to the ground and have it feel like they're, moving their weight along those feet. So it's a very, it's the same reason why a lot of games try to not do as much with like octopus and squids and stuff like that, because it's just a hell of a lot to rig and a whole lot of considerations to have to deal with. So they're definitely on for the spider mount here. So the art team, I'm sure, is definitely going to start committing some resources to it. And it's not like they haven't done spiders in the past in previous games. I just don't know if any of them are going to have the same kind of fidelity that these ones are going to have.
Well, I hope so because I mean, if you look at the heroic movement right now, each leg is independent. So if you're on a cliff, your leg's going to be here, and then your other leg's going to be here, and that is really innovative and exciting. So with 8 legs, I don't see what's the problem. Why not just repeat that process that they've already implemented with the heroic movement system and apply it to 8, independent legs?
Because the intervals between the legs and the potential for them to be like overlapping each other and clipping through each other is a lot higher at that point. I can definitely I can see them either doing it right and taking a long time to do it, or cheating it and they're basically a square, a square vehicle that has legs and an
Well,
animations.
have you seen the heroic movement system? I mean, they're not cheating.
No,
They're not.
no,
And
they're not.
I was just gonna throw that in here. If it was really going to be a huge technical issue for them, I don't think they would have put it in their very first poll.
You're right. Yeah.
As a matter of fact, I'll bet you it's in their first poll because they're super proud of what they're able to do. And that's why they offered
That's
it up
true.
right away.
That's true.
Yeah, that
Or
makes sense.
they realize it's going to be a technical nightmare and they'd
They're
rather
tackling it
now
first.
than later,
Either
So,
way, yeah. Probably both. Probably, it's the biggest tackle. 8 independent legs. That's difficult. I mean, obviously, like a snake body or something would be very hard, but 8 independent legs that have to touch the surface and then not, like you said, Neuro, interact with each other, not, bump into stuff, clip through stuff. So I think they could do it. I'm excited.
I do too. I do too. Otherwise, it wouldn't have been there in the first choice. I also think, though, like I said, that's probably going to be the mount you get from from the Elven City or whatever. You're probably going to have your chance to like get flying carpets or clouds. Whatever Quest 2 has a real wide variety of mounts you can have access to, and everybody can ride everything. I suspect that will be the case here. People will be collecting mounts just the way they do in all the other EverQuest games. It's kind of a micro game there for them. So
And your mounts
Yeah.
will have mounts.
yeah, and your
Confirmed
mounts
by
will have
Omid.
mounts. Everybody's got a mount, including the mounts.
I like that. I like the concept.
Mounts having. I mean, if your mount has a mount, then you're just like walking through mountains at that point. Like the scale of everything. Someone mentioned Katamari Landmark earlier, and well, the scale of that game when the ball gets big enough and the camera zooms out and you're just rolling over the world.
So I think it's
Fun
cool,
stuff.
and again, we've brought this up before, but I thought it was really cool that this was a real straightforward poll. Hey guys, what mount do you want to start with this race? What do you think? And everyone voted, and they said, okay, that's what we're going to do. And I just think it's so cool that we're involved at this point, and I do wonder though, like when next launches and the general public makes their way to the game, how much bitching is there going to be because they weren't involved in the process early on?
Yeah, well, they had the opportunity, I guess, but
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
I kind of think like honestly with these animals rigged. I mean, come on, like first of all, you have like this bird creature. Okay, no one's gonna get that.
Yeah.
What was the other one? Okay, lizards. Yes, that's cool. That's awesome. That's dark elf. Because there's a lot of drow books where they had lizards and they can crawl on the wall, which is awesome. And I
Yep.
still think they should do it. So it was basically between the spider and the lizard, and everyone's gonna go with the spider because the lizard just doesn't. People don't.
For the record, I
see that.
voted for kitty cat. So
Yeah.
Oh yeah, there's a cat too.
It
Okay.
was a cat, yeah.
It's
Which I saw in my head to be like the cat mounts in EverQuest 2, which are more like panthers, you know?
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. Like a
Yeah.
stealthy animal, that can sneak behind people, backstab, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
so none of you are into the chicken horse then.
No.
No, was not digging the chicken horse myself personally, no.
Well, it wasn't chicken horse. It's just like a flightless bird of any sort, right? So, like a bat could be cool, right? Like some kind of bat that walk like a dragon, like I don't know.
Yeah, no, I get you there. Um, I mean, I'd say the dragons in what's it called? At least when they were younger in Game of Thrones, definitely looked more like bats than dragons.
I thought so.
Um, Displacer beast. Yeah, you've got
Yep.
a freaking mount that just phases around. That'd be great.
Yeah. Yeah.
Teleport from point A to point B.
Ichlithid's rubbing it in. I'm proud of this Trailblazer tag. I didn't get a
Yeah.
Trailblazer tag, sadly. I couldn't afford it, so I only have a settler tag. I have to settle for that. Ha!
There you go.
Exactly.
right.
Interesting, this week, they refrained from offering specific feedback on builds.
Yes, they did. So,
Yeah.
and you could tell, like Jeff Butler really wanted to.
They both
like,
did. They were both biting.
You're right.
They
They
really
both.
wanted to say stuff. They were
Very
like,
serious about
"Kill
it.
me."
Very
Yeah.
serious about it.
Yeah.
And the question is, why are they serious about it? And they both looked at each other and they said, we're going to offer you, the people who win this contest, something that no one else will have the opportunity to have. What is that?
We talked about it last
Talked
week,
about
and
that
I'm
last week.
pretty
I think
sure.
it's a chance to work with them on the game and get paid for it in some form or fashion. That's what I think.
And while that may or may not be the case, I think it's that you're actually going to get to build up and get some of the space in the Dark Elf City or whatever city you're helping build
Yeah.
the race aesthetic. Because they said at Landmark or I think it was the keynote actually for SOE Live last year for EverQuest Next and Landmark. They actually said something to that extent that the people who are involved with it, and they talked about it along the process, that the people who are involved with it are the ones who are going to get the space to build. They definitely want players to help them build up the city, but it's not just something everybody does all willy-nilly. It's only certain people who are going to get it.
Yeah, very specific here. This is what we're hoping to get. Like, whether there's a paycheck involved or not, they are going to be given a real unique opportunity to
Yeah.
build the world and make a permanent mark in the final game for for everybody. So I am truly envious. I wish that I had more building skill and patience with it, because that's the kind of thing I would like to be involved with, and I will just have to live vicariously through you folks.
Well, I mean, there might be more to it. Like, I still don't know how much players are able to help with discussion of the culture and the background, and more of the non-architectural aspect of the different races. I'd really like to know how the Dark Elves fight compared to other races. Like, they seem like they would be. What was the example I used last time? It was like. Um, Krav Maga and judo kind of combination. They've got mostly a lot of skills, not only with the weapons, of course, but being able to defend against close quarters combat, close quarters attacks with various types of weapons, close quarters attacks by non-weapon things they're attacking with their jaws, with their claws. The judo I would see, because especially when they're defending themselves in their own homes, all those spikes everywhere, that's what they're there for, is to throw things into them, to smash their heads into them, to jam their spine through a big old spike or something. So that's where I kind of see those two kind of styles overlapping as the kind of combat form that the tier doll would be using. And plus, I would say, some at least one more focused weapon style. I don't know what would be the best for them. Definitely, I wouldn't say like a kendo or kenjutsu kind of thing, because they don't seem. I guess that I don't feel like they kind of worship the sword in that kind of way. They'll use any weapon they want, and they actually bring a variety of weapons for that kind of just to deal with whatever situation. So I really don't know. Could be a blend of a lot of different things. What do you guys think? Just throw some
I
stuff
think
out.
they're keeping that stuff. I think that they told you what you needed to know to build buildings at the beginning of that. How sort of the military focus of the top of the towers, things like that. I think they're intentionally holding back on details like that because they want to surprise folks. They're not quite ready to spill the beans on that.
Could be.
I'm just looking at the dwarf versus Karen poll, and it's at 50-50 even split. So we have to vote for dwarf, guys.
Vote dwarves,
Dwarf.
people.
We need those dwarf builds. They're easy. I don't want to have to build Karen stuff.
Yeah.
It's
I'm
not
not
necessarily.
excited about building Karen stuff.
It's like we said earlier. It wasn't necessarily that they're easy so much as we have a good idea of what dwarf is because we've already talked about it.
And people have been
Right.
thinking about it.
We
People
don't
who
have to develop
participate.
it over time, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. We know what it is. Let us just build it, and then we can move on to the Karen, and then decide what that's going to be.
Seemed to be a lot of confusion. Not people who played EverQuest know who the Karen are. Probably have a pretty good idea of the visual aesthetic they used to have. I know they're changing things. New players, I don't know who the Karen are, and I don't know what the Karen like. I don't think I've run into the Karen in EverQuest 2 yet. What their architecture looks like, anything like that. So, we'll see what happens. I mean, people vote Karen and it wins, then I guess they'll
Well,
have to figure it out.
just to kind of frame Karen, as far as I understand, when they were released in EverQuest, they were also released simultaneously with a new class called Beast Lord. So
Okay, yes.
that's what they're all about. Like they always had a pet, and or at least the Beast Lord class always has a pet class, and they were kind of associated with that. So I think just keeping it in the animal spectrum would be like a smart design choice as far as
Brave
the layout of their city.
Starsight is saying in the chat, all the more reason to do Karen first, give more time to develop an aesthetic. I think the opposite, actually. See, like these guys were saying, everyone's been thinking about dwarves who weren't interested in building dark elves. If dwarves wins now, those of you who are excited about Karen are going to be thinking about Karen, and and you may have that extra time. So who knows? I don't know. There's Karens on the moon.
All right. Well, people are in chat are saying that I'm talking about Vashir, and they're right because that's what I'm talking about. Vashir,
Okay.
which were I guess they were cat people, but they had the Beast Lords too. I'm confused now, but apparently I think it's just like good to start fresh. Right.
Kind of agree.
Yeah.
Man, we need a historian to clarify here in chat.
Brave is
But
saying
yeah.
Karens in EQ1 lived in little huts. That's it. So they were sort of like a grasslands kind of people, I
Okay.
guess.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I could see them just living in cardboard boxes and just jump in and pull the flaps over when they like a cat. No, never mind.
Now, just about this conversation, I will say that both Rosie and Jeff Butler said that they want dwarfs and they don't want Karen for this next thing. So, like, it's a not, like, we got to have dwarfs.
Like the
Yeah.
Wonder Llama says, just vote for dwarves and you don't have to worry about it.
There
Yeah.
you go. Just do it. Just do it.
I would say like Karens are definitely gonna go through next time. It's probably gonna be whatever the last time until
We'll
we
be up
come to like
next.
a real stinker of a race. It's like
Which is the real
Yeah.
stinker?
humans.
Humans.
It's like, oh, humans. Screw that. We
Kinda
we
boring.
already know how to do human
So like
infrastructure.
Diggs is saying, so it's Crap Shack.
Yeah.
Will that be a race? Gypsies? The Crap Shack Gypsies?
No, I don't know about that. I feel like the humans would probably get pushed back just because we already kind of know what human. It's easy to say what human infrastructure looks like because we have so many examples, and it's just do what doesn't already look like something else, kind of. But then there's also a lot of I guess a lot of consideration with how and not just with humans but with every race, how many cultures exist within that race. The Tyrdal, they're
Right.
just they're a tight knit culture.
Yeah.
But among Karens, there could be, Vashir
Froglocks
could
might
be
like.
one form of the, just one culture of it. Froglocks, I keep on saying I want to see medium and large size Froglocks and the whole Battletoads thing, but that nobody else seems. People love the idea, but they hate the actual idea of having giant Froglocks. So, um,
I don't want Froglocks at all. Just so you know, they're like
really.
Murlocs to me. I don't want them. Go away. Exactly. I think Murlocs like spawned from Froglocks. You know, like people hated Froglocks so much that they made Murlocs. I don't know. I'm just saying. Just a theory.
Well, for those who don't remember, when EverQuest 2 launched, they were a global server-wide quest. You had to unlock the race. They weren't, or it was like sort of the mini game within the game for
Hmm.
years, and people chased that hard. So for all the, I don't want to play that, there were a lot of players who were into it back in the day.
Oh yeah, and well, I think it's just kind of like a new factor because as soon as the race came out, everyone's rolled a new Froglock, made their new
Absolutely.
race, leveled them up. But I think they're cool, but I would see them more as a mob, like something I would kill, and not something I would play. That's just me.
Fair
Fair
enough.
enough.
And same here. I wouldn't roll one myself, but you know. Let's see. Iclithid is asking, do we know all the races for launch yet? No, we do not. They have not
No.
shared that yet. So I think they're still trying to decide too. So
Didn't they
yeah.
say there were going to be 9 of them? I
I
think
thought
they
they,
might.
I thought they said 18, or was that class types?
No, that's 40 class types.
40 class types then. Okay. Yeah, I don't remember. I don't remember specifically how many races they said. I just really am waiting for Faye. So
Yep. Which, of course, that's one of the very popular ones that will
yeah, yeah.
definitely,
It looks like a
especially,
starter too. Yeah. So at least I'm
yeah.
hoping, and that does seem to be. I'm not the only one who wants that. So.
Well, also, I mean, they got rid of Free Realm, so they have to do something to cater to that audience.
Oh, shut up, you.
Yeah, no.
Not everybody has to be hardcore ogre or whatever, or dark elf.
I'm not even gonna get into it. Like my 1 hour of playing it before the game went down was just hilarious. But anyway, so yeah, then actually, I going back to the point of different cultures, that's another aspect of it that they could build into it, and they kind of did that in World of Warcraft and some other games that you can't necessarily be part of every single culture of that race that exists in the game. There could be a lot of them that just exist purely as enemy only factions, or factions maybe they're not necessarily enemy, but they're certainly not friendly to the Combine, to Player Alliance. So being able to get in their good graces would be kind of a difficult sort of thing, and you might not have the same kind of opportunities offered afterward if you did get in with them. Or likewise, it could be something where you get in with them and then even more opportunities to actually, establish peace with them and get them into the Combine could be added. They can have a lot more variation: surface dwarves, underground dwarves, mountain dwarves, tree dwarves. Probably not.
No.
Tree dwarves would be interesting. I think Brass is already like packing up her mace to drive over here and smack me in the head with that one. So, um, yeah,
Well, I
They don't like
suspect.
heights.
I suspect, in the interest of variety, that you're probably only going to have one elf race at the beginning of the game.
Really? That's interesting because I would totally disagree because we got the dark elves already.
Yeah.
So if we have a dark elf, we have to have some kind of other
You
elf, like a
think so?
high
You
elf,
think like
a wood
immediately
elf.
they need to have the
Oh,
counterbalance?
absolutely, absolutely.
well, yeah, because they were the former Empire race. Of course, like as many of them were going to
Yeah.
come through as all of the refugees.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Good
And I
point.
think that's going to be where the conflict is. There's going to be the dark elves who used to be the normal elves, and then there's going to be the normal elves who might, and that's where there's going to be like that weird conflict where like these guys stayed and fought and went through all this torture, where these guys are like, well, now you're changed, you're not really us anymore, and that's going to be kind
Yeah.
of the weird
Yeah, well, they've
conflict.
actually talked about that's the overarching kind of back and forth that we're going to see is that dark elves are going out almost in a nationalist kind of way to establish that they are the top elves among elves in the world, and I say nationalist because on top of that, they're also saying, but it doesn't matter, whether we're talking about high elves or dark elves. Elves are still the number one race. Is kind of their opinion of things. So that's kind of an interesting thing, and I feel like that stems from the empire itself because it was basically this elf run empire where they pretty much more or less pushed all of the races into either being kind of their second classes that they use as slaves and servants, or second classes that they only interact with for military and defensive purposes. I don't expect that any Karen would have been able to be kept as a slave by the Tyrdal at all, or
Yeah,
the Goat at all.
most of the folks in chat are piping up and they're saying that there will be some form of high elf or wood elf. They have Firiona, so high elves are confirmed. Now, I'm going to sound like a noob. Firiona was a elf? I
Yeah,
thought she was human. I thought she was
No,
human.
she's elf.
Okay.
Ears.
All right. Forgive me.
yeah. You can't see it from here, but definitely pointy ears.
Gotcha. Okay. So there you go then. There you go.
There we go. So low
I've,
elves.
I'm interested if ogres are going to be a class, and I'm also interested. What's the scale? EverQuest 2. I remember when that first came out, I was like, oh, we're going to have like the ogres are going to be huge, and the dwarfs are going to be tiny. And I don't know. I never played it, so I don't know how it played out. But I would really be interested to see like, cities where they were so small, the gnome cities where like literally ogres couldn't go into them, where they'd
Yeah.
have to like bash into them. Like I think that would be interesting. I mean, of course, it would be a limitation to like what the content players are going to access, but at the same time, it's kind of like, intrigue. Like what's in there. I can't. I will never be able to go in there as a ogre unless I like literally bash a hole through the wall.
It's a good thing they're just voxels.
They're
Update on the
voxels.
vote 50-50 even. Vote dwarves, people. Vote dwarves.
Still 50-50. Wow. That's just amazing.
Isn't it amazing? Isn't it amazing? It seems like crazy because
Yeah.
everyone should be voting dwarf.
Yeah.
But I guess cats.
Who's voting for Karen? Who out there in chat's voting for Karen? Please get out of here, guys.
Yeah, Face City should be a lot of fun because they're not going to be. They're going to be a lot of floating things.
Yeah, they're gonna be tree. They're gonna be like tree houses, basically. Their whole city is in a tree. At
Oh
least
yeah.
it was in EverQuest 2. So it's certainly that it is the. It wasn't the easiest questing zone compared to like New Hollis, but it was a really cool zone and it had really cool stories and they're a really cool race. And I do love that city. I do enjoy flittering around it. So I'm hoping they keep that theme, and I suspect they will.
Yeah, I was high elf, and that's the first city I went to, because the high elf city you start like right outside of the city, and
Hmm.
then when you go forward, you go to that tree city, and that's
Yeah.
the first thing I found in EverQuest, that tree city as a high elf, and I was like, wow,
Yeah.
this is cool.
Yeah.
Let me explore this, and then I explored all around it, and I probably spent more time in that area than any other city. And it was just a blast. And I found Crushbone right to the side, which is like the
Yep.
orc encampment. And I hope that they have that like real close, tight knit kind of area space. It's always like a balance between we want to have big open spaces, but at the same time, we do want to have the players and everything feel like it's all like a small community, tight knit.
Yeah.
Oh no.
That
Felt
I
like
was a
that.
high elf, but I was in the starting area of everybody or of the wood elves and all that kind of stuff. So
Yeah.
that was important to me.
My internet was wonky for a second there.
It
Should
happens.
be fine now. It should stabilize. All right. So we've got another 15 minutes, and we're towards the end of the list here.
Yeah, we've done a pretty good job of talking up everything that was in here. You guys want to go back to voxelmancy, and I'll just take a nap.
Okay, well, there's hold on. Before that, there is the props the props wish list
Oh,
on Reddit.
yes. Yes.
So that was basically pretty much.
I
I don't
have
know.
both those links.
Okay, cool deal.
Oh, hang on. I'll drop it in the chat there.
So basically, the props wish list is they want to know what props we want in the game, and using the power of Reddit, plus or minus any sort of fanboyism that goes on there. The items that people want should be the ones that get upvoted the most. So,
I don't agree with that system at all because those aren't the people building on Reddit. Those are fanboys, like you said. Those are people playing EverQuest. Forget about it. In my personal opinion, I think it should be, the community that on Twitter and on the forums, and not really Reddit.
I'm a little surprised that, yeah, he went there to do this and not the official forums.
well, considering all of H1Z1 communication is done on Reddit rather than an official
Well,
forum.
they don't have a real forum up right now, and I think that's why they're using
No, they don't want to. Smedley's the one. Smedley loves Reddit, and he's kind of the one in charge of H1Z1. So
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
he's
That's open source code. Reddit, the Reddit algorithm is open source, so
Yeah.
they could literally take that algorithm and apply it to their own internal stuff, which they probably have already done. They have probably already done for other stuff, but anyways, they could definitely apply that to the forums and other stuff to get that information and it to be accurate.
Now, apparently Dave loves Reddit too. I didn't know that. I saw Dave.
A lot of people do. I don't even have a Reddit account, and I know I should probably get around to getting one. But yeah, I don't really use Reddit unless it gets kind of forced in front of me. You know what I mean? Oh, here, you should read this. Kind of a thing. I've not been too hyper invested over there, but we'll see. Also, though, I think in the case of H1Z1, like Kodi was saying, kind of the people who are over on Reddit are not really the builders and the alpha testers, and
Right.
the closed beta testers. But the guys over on Reddit are the kind of people who are going to love killing me in H1Z1 and taking my shit.
Yeah.
So I can see why, they're using that audience.
Oh yeah,
to
they're the consumer.
gauge that.
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree with that. And I think, I do agree that props should probably be more of a consumer item. That just like thinking on the fly here with what you just said, props eat up computer resources, and I don't like them being used as a architectural, anything in architecture, because voxels are way better as far as performance and destructibility. So I'd rather the props be like very obvious, like this is a prop, this is sitting here, that's what it does. It has a specific function, and you use the whole thing, as opposed to the idea where we're using portions of props, but you're using the entire resources for the whole prop. So it doesn't really make sense. It's like architectural piece.
Yeah.
So I do kind of see that viewpoint.
It would be nice to be able to break down the props into different pieces, but then it would significantly change. Like right now, we don't have to have vectors drawn for all the modular kind of connection points. So that's adding another upwards of, depending on how complex a weld it is, upwards of hundreds of voxels to make the put together and broken apart versions look seamless. It's kind of a thing. I mean, you also do graphic design. Do you do 3D as well?
No, pretty much Landmark is the the scope of my 3D projects. So.
Okay, I gotcha.
It's funny. I like it. It was the props that got me to build, believe it or not. Because get ready to drink. When I played Star Wars Galaxies, I loved decorating my house with trophies over the years as I played the game. That was really kind of one of the neat things. And it's funny, friends who never played the game but would come over occasionally to watch me play, always thought that was the goddamn coolest thing. Being able to display your old armor in the room and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
it was when I was making some props to see, okay, what can you do? What do they got? Oh, they got a door. Does the door work? The door works. right now I got to put that door in something, and that led to me building what I built. Um, I am purely interested in props because it gives me more things to put in my build that just now it's starting to feel like I have a trophy room. That's kind of where I'm at with it. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of building with props, these structures. So I'm looking at this list going, ooh, yeah, I'd like teleport pads and crystals and, you know, books I can write in and
Fireworks.
armor display
I
mannequins and
want
things like
moving
that.
things more than anything. I want
Absolutely.
moving things. I want platforms. I want the current bookcases to be able to slide the width of the bookcase to one side so that way you can have hidden doors. All that sort of stuff. That's what I want. All the
Yeah.
static props, they're great, but we can do a lot of that with voxels. It's
Yeah.
moving stuff that we just absolutely do not have the capability for. The Iron Porculus, great. That's the first item we've had that moves in that pattern. I'd love to have 10 more.
Yeah.
Completely
Like I'm
different.
looking, they have window treatments, like they have shutters they want, and those all need to work. Like you need to be able to open and close your shutters. What else is in this list? Mattress sheet settings, drum sets, musical instruments. Wait a minute. Musical instruments are on this list. For those of you who don't know, I have a thread about adding entertainer skills and musical instruments
Yeah.
plays a part in that. So, hmm. Hmm.
All right, so we're getting close to the end of the show here. We've been going for an odd 2.5 hours, and I say odd because usually the workshop show goes for a full hour, but because they
Mhm.
couldn't give specific feedback today, they just went through weeks 1 through 4 and did a good
And we
review.
never said, by the way, on the show why they didn't give feedback. They said it wouldn't be fair at this point in the
Yeah,
competition to start specifying things that we're in the
yeah,
last week of the contest. So
because they could be basically telling very specific
pushing
people,
people
the
over the
lucky
line
people,
to
that
win.
like how to
Yeah.
how to do the thing.
But like, why? How good is that prize, right? That they're doing that, right?
Well,
Like,
once
what
again,
is that prize?
I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure that you're going to be able to, be a part of building the
Some
in-game
way,
infrastructure
fashion.
or something.
Who
Yeah,
knows?
you're going to be
The way they
you-
look,
those
it's got
guys.
to be good. It's
Yeah,
good.
whether it's just to have that item in the world or whether you're getting a paycheck, but yeah, you're going to have the opportunity to be really involved in
I
building
think,
over there.
well, like I think, like, okay, the game industry. What is unique about the game industry is being able to work with those people. Like,
Yeah.
that's what's
And
great
it's
about it.
been
It's not about money. It's not about anything other than being able to, in my opinion, work and learn from those like amazing people. And I think that's the opportunity that they're
and
offering.
that's been the theme. That's been the recurring theme, and that's what Dave has reemphasized. And I am blown away at how the players have pushed the tools. And I guarantee you, one of the points of his keynote that I'm hoping gets streamed, or when they talk about this, because I am fortunately not going to be at
They
SOE
will.
Live.
They'll stream it.
Yeah, I guarantee you, part of why he's been showing off, here's our first developer build, because that's going to be a part of the presentation. Here's what we were doing. And then we let our players in and they blew us away. They were doing, you know what I mean? They're doing things better than we were, and they're teaching us how to build the world. I think that is very much, they're doing something so goddamn unique in this industry, and I don't think anyone's ever going to have the balls to do it the way they're doing it.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so we've got just a few minutes here, so I want to wrap up. We're going to do a giveaway. We're going to do a raid. So I've got one little announcement. Once again, we were just talking about SOE Live, and I'm going to be there. I've got these fancy new stickers now. You can kind of see, maybe not, the gorilla head logo on them. It's pretty awesome stuff. If you ever see Labels 2 in the community, he makes these awesome labels, and it's helping me and a few other people with them. So if you come to SOE Live, be sure to hit me up for a legendary neurotoxin sticker, or 2, or 10, or however many I stick on you. And on that note, I am going to start the giveaway while you guys kind of go over your stuff here. And remember, we've only got just a few minutes, so let's try to keep it brief.
Yeah, Cody, why don't you let folks
yeah.
know again where they can find you when you're not here and what you're doing and all that?
Yeah, you can find me at NanoVoxel on Twitter. And if you check out my YouTube, that's at NanoVoxel as well. And you can also, I'm starting to do Twitch streaming, so check that out for sure. And hopefully I'm gonna keep doing more streams and that kind of thing. So I'm excited about it. So
Yeah, very
Excellent.
cool. And I should specify real quick: the giveaway is for a lunar anklet or iron pork cutlets,
go with that.
or
Go with the gate.
or July's new item,
Ooh,
the Gem Finder's brooch.
gate.
Any of those three items, just one of them, but you get to pick.
Iron
So,
portcullis. Iron portcullis.
So while he does that,
while that goes, why don't you?
I would like to just mention YouTube/AT0MXII. That's where you can kind of scope out all of my content, and not to panhandle, but I'm going to throw this out here because the job hunt is not going well. I do have what's called a Patreon page up for my content. And if you check out my YouTube channel and you're interested in knowing a little more about that, it's a voluntary sort of donation system for my content. A lot of the podcasters I like use it. If you dig in what I'm doing and you want to help out, hit the link at the top of the YouTube channel. It'll take you there, and there's much more info about that. But at the very least, please check out the YouTube channel. Hit subscribe and see what comes down the pipe.
Oh, I saw somebody had the answer, but then they had a couple extra letters in front of it by accident.
Oh yeah, just give it away. Give it away, why don't you?
Oh, they'd have to
Uh,
scroll up real quick to find it.
Real quick, Neuro, for all the builders out there, uh, Rosie Rappaport specifically said those peak roofs, use them. And they had the support buttresses on the exterior, and then they went up on the exterior of the roofs like this. Make sure to use them because she said use them.
Yes,
And
indeed.
the competition's coming up, and they're serious about it.
Congrats, Rave. Awesome, awesome.
Rats rave.
Cool deal. So, we're going to do a raid here as we wrap up live feature rant. We are going to go head over to. Whoops, that's not the link I was looking for. The one I am looking for. Oh no, they're not online anymore.
Oh, I hate it when
Let
that
me give
happens.
you somebody else who is totally awesome. We're going to go hit up Schrodinger Cat. Schrodinger Cat is another awesome builder in the Landmark community. You can find them there at that link. And on that note, going to be wrapping up the show here. I am Legendary Neurotoxin. This has been Live Feature Rant, an EverQuest Next and Landmark talking discussion show. On my screen right is Adam, the regular guest here. He's actually the regular co-host, I should say. And on screen left is Kodi, who's been joining us this week for some awesome discussion. Awesome builder. Do follow him
Yeah,
everywhere.
excellent conversation, Cody. Thank you for coming on.
Yeah, definitely. It was a pleasure, and I hope to talk to you again soon, both of you guys.
For sure, for sure. Well, until then, see y'all later.
Bye.